Is this how you're doing takeoff?
It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulty.
What is going on, YouTube's technical difficulty is definitely the word of the day today. I don't know why, but YouTube's live dashboard for me is completely hosed. Every time I try to access it to get into the live stream settings, it just craps out, says server error. So I don't know if it's something on my end. I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that Fox did a copyright strike against me. I have no idea. So yeah, it's because it's Monday. You're probably right. So I'm sorry about that. Also, I want to truly and sincerely apologize for the delay. Mrs. Anti-Checker had a routine doctor's appointment this morning. The doctor's appointment was scheduled at 9:15. That was the earliest she could make it. The office opens at 9. We did not get in to see the freaking doctor until 10:30. The live stream's supposed to start at 10. I was livid because how the hell do you fall an hour and a half behind in the first hour and a half of the day? How does that make any sense? I mean, I understand that the American healthcare system, thanks to Obamacare, is overtaxed and extremely inefficient. But holy crap, an hour and a half behind in the first hour and a half of the day. That is just beyond stupid. So, yeah. In the meantime, Bird of Prey and I are supposed to be having a discussion. And so I assume, Bird, you still wanted to have... I know that you were like... I heard you talking about like taking notes and stuff. But yeah. And Don, I'm not debating whether or not, Mitt Romney had similar ideas. It doesn't matter. It's still a bad idea. Simply mandating that everybody have insurance, the only thing that does is overtax the system. And so it's the reason I call it Obamacare is because that's what it's freaking called. Obama himself liked the fact that people called it Obamacare. So that's what it is. All right. If Mitt Romney had done it, we'd be calling it Romneycare. That has nothing to do with it. That's not a political statement. That's simply what it is. But the problem is, and I worked in the health insurance industry long enough to know when it was happening what a bad idea Obamacare was. You can't just say, okay, now everybody has to have insurance. And by the way, all you insurance companies, you can't charge any extra for people that have pre-existing conditions and stuff, even though it's going to cost you more. So you're just going to have to make it up some other way. And that's what they're doing. That's why now people have to wait for freaking hours for routine appointments. That's why, you know what? It took me 2.5 years to get in to see my primary care doctor for the first time. I saw this guy last week. I swear I've been actually more than that. I've been trying to see this guy since I got my current insurance, which was 3 years ago. I started working for my current employer 3 years ago, had to switch insurance because of that, tried to schedule an appointment. I just got to see the guy last week. That's simply saying everybody, all the insurance companies now have to do this and this and this and this and this. That doesn't fix anything. It makes it worse. And nobody seems to realize it. So, And you're right, Bird of Prey. It does say that the video is blocked worldwide. However, I didn't realize it was blocked until this morning, and since I was on my phone, I couldn't do anything about it till I just filed the dispute with Fox. And knowing Fox, they're going to release the video. It's just a matter of when. So, Bird of Prey, I will give you the choice. We can argue a little bit for the next probably about an hour at the most, because I actually have an appointment that I'm supposed to do in 40 minutes, or we can postpone if you want, so that you have a chance to see my reaction video. It's your call. We'll make it a short live stream if you and either way, so it'll have to be a short live stream. So it depends on you. And I know that you were feeling, it sounded like you were feeling a little anxious this morning, so I don't want to put you in an undue stressful position either. Wishing you all a great day, Andy Tricker and fellow nerds. Got my phone working again. Good to see you, Stromer. Haven't seen you in a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, and so my last stream, which was my review of Orville Identity Part 2, so since I know a couple people were asking about that, it got hit with a copyright strike by Fox because I did show a couple of clips. Fox is not CBS, so even though the bots hit it with the copyright strike, I'd be willing to bet that it'll come back. It'll come on. All right, so Bird of Prey says, I'd rather get it over with. All right, so let's see. So Bird of Prey, probably the easiest way to do this is through Discord. So Bird of Prey, why don't you go to Discord, and I will give you a Discord call. And we'll see if we can get this working. So let me know if you can hear me on the call, and then try to say something back so we can get the audio working. No heart attack on live stream, please. Joseph, I promise. No heart attack. Thank you for the couple of euros. I do truly appreciate it. And if you want to see a super chat reward while we're waiting for Bird of Prey to get all situated, you go right ahead and let me know. I hope Fox releases video soon. I enjoy it. Yeah, it was a fun time actually doing that Orville review, and I think Fox is pretty good about it. They usually release it within a day or two. Okay. Firetail is in the house. Haven't seen you in a little bit, and says, I have to work overtime. I'm already pissed about it. Why not sweeten the time a little bit by listening to you? Thanks, Firetail. Holy. Sent you a message earlier on Discord. I do have a couple of messages sitting there, but I haven't been able to check them out. And no, right now I can't hear you, Bird of Prey. If I could hear you, I would be saying that it looks like you should be in the call. So let's see. I'll let you keep dinking around with it a little bit. And let's see. What did you ever do to Hollywood for them to hate you? Well, I do kind of rail on them a little bit. There is that. So Bird of Prey is still struggling. At least, yeah. Make sure the volume's not too low on my computer. Yeah.
I forgot. Oh.
You cut out for. I heard you for a split second, Bird of Prey.
It was super loud. It's still.
It's super loud. Okay. Now, first of all, while Bird of Prey is working on getting his side squared away, can you guys hear him okay? Because I need to know if you heard him. He was like, but could you hear him? Now I got to wait for the reaction from the chat to see if anybody's able to hear him.
I know why I'm cutting out.
Okay. Why?
Because I took my finger off the button.
Well,
but it is so loud coming through my headphones right now.
Can't you?
I had to take them off my head.
Why don't you just turn the system volume down?
Because then I can't hear you.
Oh, you mean your own voice is coming through really loud?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
From your side.
That is really... Oh, because my stream is also playing your voice. Yeah. Alexa, turn volume down.
I got headphones on today, so not going to work.
So, and Mrs. Anti-Trucker was on the Bird of Prey stream while we were driving home. And so, yeah, So here's the thing. We're going to do... because Peter inspired this... We're going to do an official contest right now. anybody that wants to can participate. So on antitrekker.com, send Mrs. Antitrekker, that is her name on antitrekker.com, is Mrs. Antitrekker. Send her you serenading her to sweet talk her into doing whatever review you want her to do. And the winner will get it. So, but you got to serenade her, and you know, obviously, Dr. Alex is not allowed to participate because he would just automatically win. Trek Yards is here. We're going to be talking in a little bit. Trek Yards and I are we're doing a little recording session this afternoon. And no, we don't need to get Bird of Prey singing. We have Bird of Prey singing. That yeah. So record you sounding your sexiest. Send it to Mrs. Antitrekker on antitrekker.com, and we'll see who gets to who gets to be the winner. So Ensign Ricky, and before we get into the Orville, that is actually a really good point that I'm going to be bringing up in the near future. Can you believe that they cast men as Telosians in the next episode of Discovery? Did you notice that, Bird?
I did. Shocking.
Yeah, and it's so funny because they made such a big deal out of being like this progressive, female empowerment thing, and then they cast men in roles that they originally cast women. That's just weird. All right, so we only got a little over a half an hour, Bird. So tell me now. I'll tell you. You say that this was. I know you wouldn't go so far as to say it sucked, but you felt this was a bad episode of Orville Identity Part 2, correct?
I'm going to say this was the worst episode of the Orville yet. Okay. Now, overall, still good.
Right,
because Orville isn't bad.
Worse than Discovery or anything.
But the worst yet.
Yeah.
And mostly, I blame lazy writing.
Okay.
The space I'm sorry about
That's
the dog.
Okay. Sassy just disagrees with
the space battles were great. The effects were great. The sound was great. The acting was great. It was the writing.
Mr. Captain says I should hang up on you because you're drunk. I don't think Bird of Prey is drunk. Is Bird of Prey way louder than me? Let me see if I can get that adjusted a little bit. Talk for a minute, Bird of Prey. I want to see if that balances it out.
Anybody ever hear this story about
is that a little better?
Antitrekker's first time in a Jeep?
My first time in a Jeep?
Yeah, your first time in a Jeep.
I don't think that that's
I heard it through the Jeep Mafia. We're a close-knit group.
Oh, okay.
And
all right,
I heard you were so overwhelmed by the experience of being in a Jeep. You had to get a change of pants.
That's, funny, Bird, you should say
it
that.
wasn't from crapping or peeing. That's all I'm going to say.
You could, I'm sure you believe that, but here's the problem. I have never in my life been in a Jeep except for when I was in the military, and those Jeeps are definitely not worth saying they're awesome. Those military Jeeps back in the day had a top speed of about 40 miles an hour. And they were all, they were only worked in 4-wheel drive. There wasn't, it wasn't like a civilian Jeep where you can switch it between 4- and 2-wheel drive. And yeah, they were horrible. And they were about half the size of a civilian Jeep. They're tiny. They were like toys. And the Jeep did not have a P corner. Bird is higher than Kit. He must have visited Captain Foley. Are you high right now, Bird?
No, I don't partake.
All right, so you basically think that visually you thought it was good, you thought the action was good, but you thought the writing was overall lazy.
Yeah, let me just get into that.
Sure.
Because we're short on time. Two main problems, and I'll forego the notes. One, timing and distance. completely off the bat. Kalon's supposed to be way out of Union space.
Mm-hmm.
And it took them, like Isaac said, 37 cycles to get there.
Yeah.
He was off 37.6 cycle, which I took to mean like days, Kalon days, whatever they are.
Sure.
So say a month. But on the way back, it's like they're only on the ship for hours. They're in the shuttle bay the entire time, not for days, not for weeks. They don't have any food. They don't have any water. They made a pea corner, but nothing else. Their uniforms are clean. They're they're well groomed. So they weren't in there for a month.
Okay.
So how do you get back from Kalon to Earth in what, 6, 8 hours, 12 hours? How do you get from wherever they were to Krill space and back to Earth in, what was it, like 30, 40 minutes? I mean, maybe an hour?
Actually, okay,
in the briefing room, when they were all brought to the briefing room,
mm-hmm.
the Kalon said they were 6 hours away from the Earth solar system. So that would have meant the majority of the trip happened before that scene.
Right.
Then after that scene, they're in the shuttle bay, and Kelly says they have to get a message to Union Central. Taylor says, when will we know when we're in communications distance? And John, engineer, says we won't know until we can get to the navigational computer. But they're 6 hours away. How can they not be in communication distance? So,
well, they said they didn't know.
Of especially the shuttlecraft getting to the Krill and back, way doesn't make any sense.
All right.
How fast they get back to Earth from Kalon doesn't make any sense. And it's not just doesn't make sense. It is absurdly doesn't make sense that it detracts from the story.
Now, I will say this. Let me address that for just a minute. So I agree that the timing of it seems a bit inconsistent. However, I'm not going to say absurdly so like you, because here's the thing. You're right that Isaac said that he was offline for 37 cycles when he woke up on Kalon. However, you're not taking into account the fact that Isaac collapsed. The Orville then had to contact the Admiral, get permission to divert to Kalon. The Orville was not at Earth, so it could have been on the other side of the Sol system and further away from Kalon than the trip back to Earth. The only thing they said as far as the actual distance is that they were outside of communication range when they would be at the Kalon homeworld. And so they wouldn't be able to call for help if they ran into trouble. Now, that 37 cycles, we don't know if he meant 37 hours, 37 days. I would tend to think it was 30. I took the 37 cycles as 37 hours. That he had been offline for basically a day and a half. And I know Mr. Miles pointed out in the chat that the very fact that they had a pea corner means that it had been more than just a couple of hours. Because, you know, if it was a matter of just a couple of hours, well, they wouldn't have had to resort to a pea corner yet.
No, but the fact that they only have a pea corner and that nobody has water, nobody has food.
Right. Well, but then
nobody has to do other things.
And then here's the other side of it. And this is actually something that I would say is a general nitpick that I have with the Orville as a whole, but it also opens up things like what we're talking about. And that is what Captain Jesse asked in the chat. How fast is quantum drive?
Yeah, that's a good question. But, you know, if it took a while, presumably, to get to Kalon. And wherever the fleet was we knew they could not get back to Earth quickly because that guy said it would take weeks for the fleet to get back.
Right.
So clearly they fly away distances that would take at least weeks, let's say a month, 2 months to get back.
Or that's
we
not
also
the entire
know
fleet.
Mockless is further away than the Krill, apparently.
Yes, because they said the Mocklins wouldn't make it back.
They said the Mocklin fleet couldn't make it in time, but the Krill could.
Yeah, I think there's a good point to it being plot speed is the speed of quantum drive. You're right. But yeah, and Nerdrotic actually pointed out, and by the way, welcome Nerdrotic, and I agree with him on this, is that, and this is what I was going to say as far as the fleet. The entire fleet wasn't there. The fleet would have been about 3,000 ships, but there were only 300 that showed up.
Oh, yes, I know that. But I'm saying that they admitting the fleet would take weeks to get back.
Right.
So it's clearly common that the ships are weeks away from Earth. Not every ship is within 12 hours of Earth. So we know that quantum drive has to take weeks to cross
to get to
Union space.
Well, yeah, to completely cross Union space. But and this is another problem. This is some of the and I'll give Seth MacFarlane some credit for keeping things under wraps on some of this, because that makes it so that they can get away with stuff like this. We don't have a map of Union space, right? We have no clue as to where everything is relative to everything else, correct?
Correct, as far as I can tell.
So let's just pretend for a second that Union space is the United States of America. That way we have a common reference point we can use. And we'll say that Mocklin space is in southern Florida. Earth is in Seattle, Washington. And the Kalon are in the Kalon are in Vancouver, Canada. So
it doesn't make sense that Vancouver would be out of communication range.
Well, but you're assuming the communication, like within, if you are within, and Darth, as far as patron stream, I'm not 100% sure what time it'll be, because it's going to be a crazy day for me, but it'll be sometime late this afternoon. But
and how does Isaac send updates if they're out of communication range?
Well, I think there's an inconsistency there with Isaac. On the one hand, the Kalon could shut him down remotely in part 1. On the other hand, why couldn't they just shut him down again when they reactivate him?
Another biggie. Why don't the Kalons have Wi-Fi? Why don't they communicate instantly to each other? And if they do, they don't need to wait to hear a report that the shuttle bay door opened.
Right.
And if they can't, none of the other Kalons know Isaac killed anybody.
Right. Now, as far as the comms range, this is what I'm saying, and Mr. Miles kind of touched on it in the chat already, but I would assume that within Union space, they have communications repeaters. They have little, repeater bases all over the place. Just like, I mean,
cell phone towers.
Right. You're a techie guy. You know that a cell phone has a radio range of a couple of miles, right? That's the furthest you could go. And so, however, there are cell towers all across the country. Now, let's pretend that Canada doesn't have any cell towers. That would mean by the time you got an hour's drive into Canada, you're out of communications range. Even though
so you are your geeky friend right now.
Yes.
But wait,
but
Kalon space.
But what I'm saying is that, to me, them not having communications when they're outside of the Union makes sense, because I would assume that there are communications relays of some kind. Now, we don't know, and that's the one thing that I don't like about the technology.
I'll give you it. I'll give you that point.
Yeah. But that's something I don't like about the tech of Orville. Something is the fact that we don't know hard numbers. Like somebody was asking when I was doing the review, who would win in a fight, the Orville versus the Defiant from Trek? Problem is, we have no common frame of reference. We don't know how fast warp speed is compared to quantum drive.
The Defiant wins.
Right. We don't know how powerful their particle cannons are compared to phasers, right? Or torpedoes compared to quantum torpedoes. We have no frame of reference whatsoever. And so we can't say how much could the Orville shields deflect against a phaser. How much could the Defiant shields reflect against particle cannons? We have no way of knowing, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And at least with Star Wars, there's enough material there to where we can extrapolate and get some good ideas. But in Orville, at least with alpha cannon type stuff, we don't have enough techie information yet. Because David said quantum drive speed equals 10 light years per hour, said by Captain Mercer. Okay, I don't remember that particularly, but that would give us something to work with at least. So we could probably figure out quantum speed, but are we going to be able to figure out weapons yield? However, that's now here's my thing. I would agree with you, and unfortunately I know you didn't get to watch my review, but the at the end of the day, what I said about part 2 is that they played it safe. They didn't take any chances. They didn't throw any crazy plot twists out there. They did everything by the book. Everything was pretty much how you would expect it to go. But they executed it very well, except for, I think that my only real problem with the writing is that Prime behaved with emotion, while Isaac was being logical.
Another thing, for a computer or a robot, the whole thing that downloaded memories would be different than ones lived seemed ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're digital.
Exactly. So you would think Isaac...
They're exactly the same.
Yeah, if Isaac downloaded the collective memory of the Kaylon, then really Isaac should be behaving exactly like every other Kaylon, unless there's a hardware difference between Isaac and the others. And there is, because Isaac, it's subtle, but I mean, really, Isaac has blue dots while the rest have orange or red, depending on who you're looking at. And Isaac, you could see, and something, I don't know if you saw it, but in our part 1 discussion on identity, Isaac's body armor is shaped a bit differently than some of the others.
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah, so...
That was a good catch.
Yeah, so it is... You can argue that Isaac is physically different, and that could account for the differences in perspective that Isaac has from the other Kaylon. And but I don't think that... but I think that Prime clearly was acting in a petty, emotional way. Nerdotic says, I'm driving. Orville's still in world building. Took it... to look at it with the same scrutiny as Trek is ridiculous. I said that was a fair point. It is, but it also... Here's the thing. There are only 3 seasons of Star Trek, the original series, and we nitpicked the crap out of that. So... and the thing is that I think the episode overall was good. What I said was, I think, like, if, you know, I'm sure you've heard this, Bird, that a lot of people have been comparing it to Best of Both Worlds, right?
Yes.
And I would say this. I think that as far as their impact on the shows themselves, I think that Best of Both Worlds Part 1 was a better episode than Identity Part 1. However, I think that Identity Part 2 was a better episode than Best of Both Worlds Part 2. And that's because Identity Part 2, while they did play it safe, and at least it felt like this was an acceptable conclusion to this, where in Best of Both Worlds, it really feels like they hit the magic reset button. Especially at the end when they were like, oh, disconnecting him from the Borg will kill him, and then, oh, I guess it didn't.
Really? I mean, because there's so much magic in this episode.
What's magic in this episode?
What's magic? Okay, here we go. The first magic, when Taylor gets hit and she doesn't die. So now on the ship's strength, she can survive direct hits to the chest. And even her uniform isn't burned when we see other crewmen's uniforms burned.
I'll agree with you on the uniform thing, although I'm not surprised that she survived. Because
okay.
I would say
number 2.
Yeah, go ahead. You all right?
Sorry, I pressed it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. What's the next thing? Well, now I can't hear you. And Bird of Prey's gone silent. I think he's trying to think of a second one right now, and he's pretending that he's having technical problems. But we'll give him a minute.
I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yaphet goes to the armory.
Yes.
Why does he come back with one gun?
Me and Mrs. Antichecker both said that as well, and I think I actually mentioned it on my stream. I was surprised that Yaphet didn't, even if he could only carry one, why didn't he then just immediately go back and grab another one? Right?
Right, and he could carry a lot. But even, forget that. Number 3.
Okay.
And this is maybe the biggest one. The entire show, we see all the Kalon ships behind the Orville until the shuttle leaves. And you know what I'm going to say. All of a sudden, all the Kalon ships are in front of the Orville, so the shuttle can get away. And then 30 seconds later, all the Kalon ships are behind the Orville again. They would have totally blocked the shuttle had they not moved.
And here's the thing. I think they could have, and I'll have to re-look at it to kind of look and verify what you're saying there as far as the change in the fleet positions. However, I could see if maybe they couldn't do it in the visual effects budget or something. But I would think that the shuttle, I mean, space is pretty big. The shuttle could have flown in between the Kalon ships.
No. I just posted in a link.
Okay.
I took screenshots. There is no if, and, or but about this. The ships were there a minute before. They were gone when the shuttle left, and they were back a minute later. Okay? You can watch it, but trust me. Their ships were just conveniently missing for when they snuck out the back.
Right.
The absurdity of sneaking a shuttle out.
I see that now. Yeah,
aside.
Looking at that, I'm with you because I see. Let me. I'll bring it up for people to see so they can see what you're talking about. And I mean, I think it's a genuine gaffe on the part of the VFX team, more than anything else. But we'll hold on just a second, guys. Okay, so here is the opening shot of the Orville in front of the Kalon fleet. And this is really what we've seen throughout the episode as they're on their way to Earth. We pretty much see this shot repeated from different angles. And when they arrive at Earth, we see a variant of this shot with the Orville leading the fleet. However, this is when and this is a shot. Well, this is the Orville facing down with the Roosevelt. Do you have a shot of the Orville behind the fleet?
Yeah, just keep going.
All right, let's see. Ah, here we go. So yeah, is that, no, that's the Orville still in front of the fleet.
Yeah, no, keep going.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, here's the shuttle bay opening. And you can see that there are Kalon ships in front of the Orville now.
Now, that next one is just a reminder where the shuttle bay is.
Right. So,
that's not from that episode, obviously.
Well, it looks like there's a Kalon ship behind there. That's
that one is.
Yeah, that's
the one above it
coming out.
Oh, I'm 30 seconds behind.
Yeah.
at the video I'm looking.
Gotcha. So I think that's a fair nitpick, but I don't.
And there's the shuttle all alone,
Like,
no ships
right
to be seen.
now. It's not as bad as, for example, The Last Jedi, when the entire Imperial fleet decided to line up in a nice row right behind the main ship, just in time for Holdo to take them all out.
True enough.
All right, so it's not that level of bad, but because I mean,
But
really,
it's close.
But here's the thing: is that because the Holdo maneuver was a crucial point in the movie, the escape was important, but what they what I would agree, what they should have done, and it would have been an easy fix, would be to have the Orville, just basically have the shuttle fly out of the back and fly in between a couple of the Kaylon ships as the fleet went past it.
Right.
And in
or
fact,
just
that could have been one of their
have them all lined up or something while they're flying. But whatever.
Right.
That was number 3. Number 4, magic. Gordon makes this impossible, don't ever do this maneuver by leaving a ship at quantum drive without issue. And that's fine. But it's a 1 in 100 shot.
Right.
How many 1 in 100 shots can you put up with? Because I've counted 4 so far, and we're a third of the way through the episode.
I would say this to that. I think that I think what they should have done with that sequence was, rather than have the discussion be about leaving the shuttle bay at quantum drive, forget that for a minute and just have it be, you realize there's like a bunch of Kaylon ships and we could fly out of the shuttle bay and right into their ships. That should have been the discussion.
I love this next one.
And
love
just
it.
real quick, Ensign Ricky says the Orville just made talking about Kaylons as easy as going to their homeworld and emitting a giant EM pulse. That's absolutely true. I'll tell you, there is a Chekhov's gun that I'm going to mention in a moment here, but go ahead.
Why would you design a ship with tubes too small for any human engineer to crawl through? What the hell's the point?
Well, they're
not Jeffrey's tubes. What if you need to fix something? You have to send a 6-year-old in? Or you have to have a Yaphet slime creature? That makes no sense.
Actually,
those vents shouldn't exist.
Actually, here's the thing. The vents I don't have a problem with. What I have a problem with is the interior design of the vents. It's not that the
right, because they look like Jeffrey's tubes.
Exactly. They were trying to fancy it up and all sci-fi it and everything as far as the set design. But they were supposed to be just ventilation. That's what they said, that they were just air vents. And so if they're just air vents, then having it that small is fine, but they shouldn't have had like the glowing rods and access panels and stuff, because it should have looked like inside of an air duct.
Okay, true. Yes, exactly. If they were air vents, they were air vents. But they were too big once you were inside to be air vents. And they didn't look like air vents.
No, I think that was an artistic choice that was a bad one.
In engineering, or wherever they went, there wasn't even a grill on it. It was just an open hole. You just under the console.
Was it? I don't remember if there was a grill or not. I'd have to go back.
There wasn't.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
And now Time, as much as I love Time, he never showed any proclivity for computers. He was a music genius.
Right.
Now he can type in frequency codes without anybody telling him what to do.
Well, except
must be basic training.
I will go to the mat against you on that one, because and this is something I wish you had been able to see my review, because I actually paused at this and showed it. The way that Yaphet described for Ty what to do, and looking at the control panel, anyone could have done it. You could have done it. I could have done it. Even though, you and I have never been on the Orville, but he said, go to the green panel. And if you look at the control panel that the kid was looking at, there's only a small set of controls that were green. And then he said, start typing in random frequencies. There were numbers and an enter button. And so the kid was just hitting numbers and hitting enter, hitting numbers and hitting enter, hitting numbers and hitting enter. So it was actually, I completely was on board with Ty being able to pull that off.
What's the chances there's a console set up just to enter random frequencies for messages or whatever?
I know, Captain Foley. I know we're gonna be finishing up in just a few minutes. Captain Foley and I are gonna be talking after you and I are done.
Sorry, Captain Foley.
It's not your fault. It's my wife's doctor's fault that we're so late. But I disagree with you in that. First of all, if you go to a comms, like if you go to the radio room of a naval vessel, I'll bet you there is probably a panel that adjusts the frequency at which the transmitter is going, and nobody ever changes anything on that panel. So let's say that you go and you tell some kid, hey, take that knob that says frequency and just start turning it in random directions. That's really all they did. The only difference is it's a digital panel instead of a knob.
Okay. Magic number 6, final one.
Okay.
Even though we're halfway through the episode. Gordon's super special quantum hyperspace jump just happens to exist and work.
Yes.
And number 7, they get picked up in 15 minutes. What were the chances?
All right, so the pickup, I'm with you on. I think that was just plot convenience, right? That they happened to drop in the middle of krill space, and there happens to be a krill ship there. To fix that, it would have been easy. And when he asked Kelly where to go, he should have just said the krill homeworld.
Okay,
that would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense.
But they didn't say that,
right? And then, but as far as the quantum drive mega jump, I'm totally fine with it because of the way he described it. It was old school Star Trek technobabble, and I mean old school.
I will grant you, and I can give you 1, maybe 2 of those an episode. Mm-hmm. But he already did the same thing to get the shuttle out of the orbit, and all of a sudden he's doing it again.
Well, and that's why I do think that, yes, there are some plot contrivances, but now what would you give the final score out of 10 on this?
5.
You gave it 5. So I gave it an 8. And I'll tell you, and this is where, and you tell me if you think I'm off base with this. This is what I said when I was talking about it. Yes, there are a lot of inconsistencies. Yes, there are some plot holes. Yes, there's some ridiculous plot conveniences. I will grant you all of that. However, where I come up with my final score is the answer to this question. Was it entertaining? And I found that episode to be entertaining from beginning to end, especially Gordon. Every time Gordon had a line, it was gold. All the way down to, and I don't know if you caught the reference, but when he shows up in the fighter in the final battle and says, just a walk in the park, Kazansky. When he said that, I lost it. I was absolutely rolling on the floor with that. Did you get that reference?
I did not.
Okay. That's the thing. There was a lot of inside jokes like that. What he said was a line that Tom Cruise says in Top Gun. Kazansky was another pilot named Iceman. And so gotcha. when they're getting ready to go into a big battle, and and Iceman's like, "Watch my 6," or something like that, and Tom Cruise like, "Just a walk in the park, Kazansky." And of course, that's what Gordon does. I think that the P corner thing was a funny joke, Gordon was absolute gold throughout the episode, and he kept a smile on my face, even though there were plot gaffes, even though there were some inconsistencies.
There were good parts. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't terrible, but for me, the plot convenience every 5 to 6 minutes. It just took away so much. I honestly don't think I'd rewatch this episode more than once a year. Whereas the others I rewatch monthly.
I don't know. I think I'll actually enjoy this because I think that it was the battle was one of the best television battle sequences I think we've ever seen.
I'll give it. The battle is 4 points out of the 5.
Right.
I mean, seeing the Union ships sacrifice themselves. I mean, Ed. Oh, there's just so much. I'll talk about it on a review, but man, the battle definitely. So it's what keeps this from being a terrible episode.
I thought the battle was epic. I thought Gordon was entertaining from beginning to end. And I also like the fact that almost every character on the show had a moment to shine in it. And
let me ask you this.
Yes.
Why does Bortus take the shot and not Taylor?
Well, and
isn't she supposed to be the best shot?
Well, this is where what I was going to say is what they should have done is Yaphet should have gotten 2 guns. Bortus takes one, and she takes the other.
Exactly.
That's what they should have done. Why they did it that way, I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because Bortus and her are the only 2 that could potentially go toe-to-toe with a Kaelon anyway. And also, why, if you want to talk about those, why is it that we've never seen the headcanon before? Since Isaac has them.
It's a secret.
Yeah, I guess so. The Battle of Wolf 359, the battle we never got to see. Exactly. That's what that felt like to me, Captain Foley, is that the battle for Earth in Identity Part 2 really felt like that's what I wanted to see for the Battle of Wolf 359. And instead, we got nothing in Best of Both Worlds, and we got a little bit of a tease in Emissary. So, that's so a nitpicking nerd says that Isaac had the gun installed in Identity Part 1. They did open up his head, but it seemed like the parts were already there.
I think they may have activated it.
That could be. That could be. See, you're clearing your own plot holes there. Thank you. So I know
this was
this
never my plot hole.
I know this was a really short episode of the show, and I'm truly sorry for that, but there's a couple of reasons. One, Mrs. Antrecker had a doctor's appointment that ran late. 2, Captain Foley and myself and Commander Calkins are going to be doing a little recording session, which means I will be on Trek Yards again. Yay! But it also means it probably won't be for another month. Because, that's how fast they are. However, I always enjoy hanging out with those guys, so I'm going to do that. There will be a supporter live stream sometime later today. I don't know exactly what time. Bird of Prey will be there, though, because he's Bird of Prey. Right?
Do you have 2 minutes?
2 minutes? You have 2 minutes. What do you want for 2 minutes?
I'm putting in $11.
Bird of Prey wants a little bit of suffering as we go out. So yes, I will put that. Let me know. Let me see here. So for those of you that are unaware, you may notice that I've always had the Super Chat, Uber Chat, and Mega Chat rewards. There's now a new level of Super Chat reward called the Bird of Prey Chat. And the Bird of Prey Chat requires $11 instead of $10 because the Mafia Man himself insisted that he had to have the most expensive Super Chat reward. So, sit back, relax, and see the unaired episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Captain Foley, you're going to want to pay particular attention to this, and then we'll sign off after that, and then Captain Foley and I are going to be arguing about something, which is going to be a lot of fun. So, here we go. The unaired, missing, lost episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Captain's log, stardate 44307.3. I'm preparing to leave my shuttlecraft for Pentaris 5, where I've been asked to mediate a dispute among the Salanite miners. A contentious group, unfortunately prone to violence. But first, I must deal with a situation of a far more personal nature.
What better way to get first-hand experience?
Captain, I'm picking up a general distress signal from Bird of Prey 5.
On screen.
Feel the fire, feel my love inside you so bright. There's the sound and the smell of love on my mind. I'm your toy, come play with me. say the word now. Wrap your legs around me. Ride me tonight.
My love is a fever, longing still for that which longer nurseth the disease.
I'm a man, I'm a goddess, I'm a man, I'm a virgin, I'm a man, I'm a blue movie, I'm a man, I'm a bitch, I'm a man, I'm a geyser, I'm a man, I'm a little girl, and we'll make love together. This sounds very pedo-ish.
In faith, I do not love thee with mine eyes, for they in thee 1,000 errors see, but 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who, in despite of view, art pleased to dote. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate.
What? Oh my God.
When I have plucked the rose, I cannot give it vital growth again. It needs, must wither.
Why are you saying these things? Music to make love to an old ladybug.
You wonderfully jealous fool, you.
Wow, well that's basically rape. That is rape as a song. Congratulations. I gotta go turn myself in.
Good night, everyone.